Alright guys, welcome back. So in the last video we learned about the movement mechanics of our game, and we also created this update method, and we also created this clock which calls the update method and sets the frame per second, and that is the FPS to 60, so 60 FPS. In this video we are finally going to be animating our ball and moving it for the first time. Now here comes the problem. In our Pong.Kivy file we have our PongBall. So we have created our ball and we have made sure that this ball is inside our game by adding it at below, that is PongBall, and this PongBall should be at the center, but there's no way to change the position of this PongBall by using our code currently. So we need some way to reference our PongBall that is inside our PongGame inside our code. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to import another property over here, and just like NumericProperty, we are going to import something known as the object property. So we'll scroll down over here and we'll create a variable inside our PongGame, and we're going to just create a variable called ball, and we're going to give it the property of object property and the default value, just like we did with the velocity. Inside that, the default value was 0. Inside this, the default value, we're not going to give it any default value. So what exactly is this object property? So just like we did in our velocity, we were telling our Python that this property over here, that this velocity x variable is going to be an integer by using a numeric property, because we are not always going to be using Python. Similarly, over here inside a class there are various objects, so we need to tell our PongGame class and Python that this ball is actually an object. And now we need some way to connect this ball that we have created over here to our Pong.Kv file, that is this PongBall over here. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to reference this ball inside our code over here. So we are going to write ball, and let me make sure that the indentations are correct, and then I'm just going to give it a value of ball. Let's just call it Pong_ball. And now what will Python do is that first it will come to this ball object property, and then it will go inside Pong.Kv, and it will look at this ball and will see this value over here, and it will further search for an ID of PongBall, and we'll go down, and inside this PongBall there is no ID, so there is no way to reference it. So what we are going to do is inside our PongBall over here, we are going to create an ID, make sure indentations are correct, and we're going to give it the same value as we have given over here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this over here. So let me just go through the flow of the program again, because you might be a little bit confused. So what Python is going to do is first it's going to go to this class of PongGame, and then it's going to create our first PongBall, and it's going to make sure that this PongBall is inside our PongGame because we have referenced it over here. But currently there's no way to change this PongBall from one position to the next position, and this .key file is responsible for drawing the ball inside our window. So that is why we need to make sure that it draws it again and again in different positions. So that is why we create an object property over here and give it a value inside the ball. And now what Python will do is that first, after creating the ball, because we have called this PongGame class, it will come over here, and because we have given it an object property, it will go inside the Pong.Kv file and look for this value of ball. So it will come inside Pong.Kv and it will go inside our game and it will look for ball. So now we have written ball over here, and then it will look for an ID, and the ID is Pong_ball, and then it will search for this ID of Pong_ball. It will come over here, it will look inside PongBall and will see the ID is Pong_ball. So it will associate this ball object property with this PongBall that is inside our PongGame. So now we can go back to our Python code, and what we are going to do is we are going to use this update method to move the ball. And how do you move the ball? By using this def move method that we have created inside our PongBall class. And this update method is pretty useful because every time this update method is called, the ball is going to move, and this update method is going to be called 60 times in 1 second. So yeah, this update method definitely has some swag. But anyways, what we are going to do is we are going to refer this ball object that we have created over here. And how do you refer an object that is inside a class? You first write self, and then you write the name of the object that you want to refer. In our case, it's a ball, and then you want to refer this move method that we created inside our PongBall class. So we just write .move, and that will make sure that the ball is moving. Right now we haven't given it any kind of velocity, so it doesn't know how fast or how slow to move. So what we are going to do with the next method is that we are going to give it some kind of velocity, but this method will just be called to make sure that the ball is always moving. The ball hasn't started moving yet though. So what we're going to, let me just run this first so that I can explain it properly about what we are going to do. So here is our ball. What we wanted to do is to move in the right hand direction or the left hand side direction randomly, so it can go to the right hand side or the left hand side, and I want it to move in any direction that we want. But currently we are just going to move it in the right hand side direction, from over here, from the center towards the right hand side direction. So for that we need to increase the x coordinate and the y coordinate will remain the same. So what we're going to do is, and this moving of the ball inside our Pong game is also known as serving the ball. So we're just going to create another method over here just above the update method, and we're going to call it serve_ball. Pretty cool, and it will obviously take the parameter of self because we are creating it inside a class. And then over here we are going to give it a velocity. So over here we have created a velocity, but we haven't put any values inside over here. So currently the velocities are 0, and we're going to change both of these value of velocity by using our reference list property of velocity. So over here we need to refer to a variable that is inside the class. So we're going to write self.velocity. But first we obviously need to refer to the ball, because what velocity are we changing? We are changing the velocity of the ball. So first we need to refer that. So let's just write that. So self.ball.velocity, because we want to put the value of the velocity of the ball. And then over here we are going to put a vector which we have already imported first, and then we want to change the value of the x by 4 pixels. I know I said you can just change it as a small value like 1 pixel or 2 pixel, but I realized that the game will move very slow if you put a very small value. So that's why I have put as 4, and this looks perfect, like the ball was moving perfectly. But on different systems it might behave differently, so kind of just like play around with it, see how it works. But what it's going to do is it's going to change both the x and y values by using our reference list velocity variables. And in order to change these x and y, we're using this velocity vector over here. And how do you change it? By just writing vector and then changing the values of x and y at the same time by typing in x velocity as 4 and the y velocity as 0. So now that the serve ball method has been created, we need to call this serve ball method. So we will go over here, and inside our build method we're going to write game.serveBall, and also we are going to return our game over here, because writing PongGame over here will create another instance of our PongGame class, and we don't need that. We don't need 2 games over here. What this will do is it will create 2 games of Pong at the same time, and we just need this game over here that we have saved before. So we're just going to write over here game instead of PongGame, and this looks pretty good. So let's try and run it and see if it works. So you can see that the ball is currently moving from here towards the right hand side direction, and so obviously right now it's just moving out of the screen, but don't worry about that right now. But let me just reload this again so that you guys can see. So it's coming from the center and it's going out. So this looks pretty good, but one problem is that we don't want it to come just straight away, like just straight. We want it to go to like other direction or just in any random direction, like it can even go to the left hand side, it can go to the right hand side. So it won't be always fair if the ball always goes towards the right hand side player. So there is a left player and there's a right player. If the ball always go to the right side player, it's not gonna be fair. We want it to go anywhere randomly in any direction. It can be towards the left hand side, it can be towards the up left side, wherever we want. So for that we are going to use something known as rotate. Just going to write from and then random. We are going to import something known as randint, and this will give us a random integer. And just over here in vector we are going to write rotate, and inside this we are going to give it 2 values. So we don't want the x to change because the x will always be moving in by 4 pixels. So we are going to give it a value of 0, but the y can be changed to anything. So y can be like up or below. So y basically controls the up or down direction. So that is why we are going to give it a value of 360, like it can just go anywhere. So this looks pretty good. Let's just run it again and see if it works. Alright, so it must be a real number, not a tuple. So the problem over here is that we haven't put the randint. I totally forgot the randint. So let me just put that. It's giving us an error. Oh, I just like cleared my screen, so it's fine. Let me just write this properly again. import randint. All right, let's just come over here, and this looks pretty good. Let's run the main program now. All right, so it's moving a little bit below. Let's reload it. All right, so right now it's just moving out of the screen, but it's supposed to bounce from this hand side direction, come below, then go over here somewhere, but we'll figure that out in the next videos. And it's going over here. Obviously it's supposed to bounce. Let's reload it and see where it goes now. All right, so it's moving on the left hand side as well as the right hand side, so this is looking pretty good. All right, so this is working. So let me just recap what we did in this video. So first we created this object property of ball to make sure that this ball variable is hooked up to our PongBall that is inside our Pong game. And then we use the update method to make sure that the ball is being moved continuously. And then we gave it a velocity of 4 that we wanted to move in the 4 pixels right hand side direction. But because we wanted it to move also in random direction, that is why we imported the rotate rand int, and we changed the y value to 360 so that the ball can move in any direction. Alright guys, so this looks pretty good. Our ball is starting to move, but right now currently the ball is just moving out of the screen. So we need the ball to bounce off and just stay in the game. So we are going to be working on that in the next video. I'll see you over there.